So, as we all know, the Jaguars have some issues, man. Let's talk about them. So, real quick, guys, this video is sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Guys, there is nothing more fun in these playoff games that you don't really have any dog in the hunt than to put on a different player pick 'em for each of these games. I do them for every NFL game. Essentially, you're going to pick a player stat and go higher or lower on it. And, guys, I was having a lot of fun on Sunday watching the Bills and the Chiefs game play because I had a 5-player thing going, and I was a Dalton Kincaid touchdown away from turning $20 into $875. My hopes were crushed at the end, but I do feel like I come out on top of a lot of these things. And look, Sunday there is a new customer special where basically they're going to give you a Christian McCaffrey player stat line for half a total yards. So if you just go higher on it, you got a free entry that way. So new depositors will get double their first deposit if you use my promo code UCFJAG. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great way to help out the channel as well. If you guys have any questions, hit me up because I'm out here doing this every single weekend. And shout out to Underdog for sponsoring this video. Now let's get into the Jaguars issues. So 2.5 weeks ago, after the Jacksonville Jaguars completely collapsed to end the season, we all knew that something needed to change. So what changed? The Jaguars fired a defensive coordinator and a bunch of, defensive staff. And I was like, okay, that's a start. But if I'm being completely honest, to me, the defense wasn't anywhere near the top of my concerns. Were they good at the end of the year? Absolutely not. Did there need to be some change up at the end of the season? Absolutely. And honestly, I do believe that Mike Caldwell probably should have been fired. I thought there was a lot of stuff that he was doing that just wasn't good overall for the team. But when we went into the season, we weren't really expecting a lot from this defense. You know what I mean? But our top concern as Jaguar fans, and at least as my fan, at least for me, is roster construction. And look, when we look back, Balky has honestly done a terrible job of building this team, General Manager Trent Baalke. Look, in 2022, the Jaguars made a nice playoff run, and that playoff run was due to a really good 2022 free agency class where, you had guys like Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Foye Oluokun, a bunch of guys contributing and, making great plays for us. And also the 2021 draft class going into their sophomore year, a lot of those guys played well. You had Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, you had Walker Little in and out of the lineup. You had just a bunch of players, Andre Cisco, Tyson Campbell, a bunch of guys playing really good football. So we were like, okay, we got building blocks now. Now going forward, we should be able to really build upon that. But as we look at the last two draft classes, look, they've been awful. And I think it all comes down to Trent Baalke just tries to be smarter than everybody. And I think that's really what it all comes down to. And you look at really the last two drafts on day two, because look, on day one, I give him credit. I think he's done pretty well. Trayvon Walker, we have the debate about him versus Aiden Hutchinson, but at the end of the day, Trayvon Walker is a good player. He had double-digit sacks this year. You draft him based on traits, and he improved a lot from year 1 to year 2. Now let's see if he can make an even bigger jump from year 2 to year 3. And also, right tackle Anton Harrison, give him credit there. He was a very, very good player, very good right tackle, and he looks like a true foundational piece to this team. But in 2022, on day 2, you draft Luke Fortner and Chad Muma. Luke Fortner is an awful center, probably the worst center in the NFL. And I'm saying that because he was so bad, I probably don't even need to watch other team centers. I mean, the amount of times run plays were blown up by him, the amount of times that, defensive linemen were right in the lap of Trevor Lawrence, once he dropped back, it was awful. And for some reason, he started every game for the Jaguars. The Jaguars refused to take him out of the lineup. And then you draft Chad Muma when it's like, dude, why are we drafting backups in the third round? The way the roster was constructed, you had Foye Oluokun. You just traded up into the first round for Devin Lloyd. Why are you getting Chad Muma? And then later on in the 2023 draft class, you bring in Brenton Strange, a tight end that was kind of out of nowhere. You could have had Osiris Torrance. And how much better are we feeling as Jaguar fans if you have Osiris Torrance at right guard and Anton Harrison at right tackle? Then we don't even have to worry about that. We just have to worry about pretty much what we do at center or left guard. And then, you got to figure out who you want, Cam Robinson or Walker Little. And I think we're feeling a lot better about this team. But right now we have questions on every single part of the interior offensive line. And then at left tackle, is it Walker Little? Is it Cam Robinson? We don't know. And then I was followed up by Tank Bigsby, which Tank Bigsby was another awful pick. Why are you drafting an RB2 in the third round? Because those are kind of guys like I'm a firm believer that you can get RB2s in free agency. You bring in JaMychal Hasty, he was good for a year. You bring in Dearness Johnson, he was good for a year. You keep recycling like that. You don't invest third round picks into guys like that. It was awful. And then on to mention that in the 2023 free agency class, you did nothing. You did absolutely nothing. And that brings up my next point. It's pass rush. Guys, we were all off season, and you guys are watching my channel. I think I mentioned in every single video, the Jaguars need to do something about the pass rush. I'm very concerned about the pass rush. You lost Arden Key, okay, and you didn't replace him with anything. So next up, your backup outside linebackers outside of that were DeJuan Smoot and Kayvon Chason. Those two players combined for 3 sacks. 3 sacks. And look, we had really good seasons out of Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen. I believe they combined for like 27 and a half sacks. That was very, very good, but only getting 3 sacks from the guys that are backing him up are terrible. And you know what names I know I was mentioning? How about Leonard Floyd? It was like Leonard Floyd is available in August. Go sign Leonard Floyd. The Bills signed him. You know what Leonard Floyd wound up doing? He got 10 and a half sacks on the year. How about Jadeveon Clowney? I made a video, guys. Jadeveon Clowney is visiting Jacksonville. We need to sign him because we have no other pass rush. He goes to the Ravens. He got the Ravens 9.5 sacks this year. And look, in a year where the Jaguars went 9-8, if you went 10-7, just had one more win, you were in the playoffs. You're AFC South champions. You're back-to-back division champions. And really, all it takes is one big play. The Jaguars could have easily been one sack away or one big player, anything away from winning any one of these games, and then you're in the playoffs. But no, when Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker were off the field, you got nothing from anybody else. Roy Robinson Harris had the third most sacks on the team with 3.5. It was pathetic. But Trent Baalke all offseason, while the fans and everybody's saying, get a pass rusher, Trent Baalke did nothing. I don't understand why he's trying to be smarter than everybody and how he can justify the fact that he didn't bring in anybody. This hurt us in a major way. And we look back on the season, it's like, what are you doing? And then you look at the interior of the offensive line and defensive line. And I'm a firm believer, I'm an old school in the thought that you are only as good as you are in the trenches, okay? And the Jaguars' offensive line was awful. I mean, the interior offensive line got Trevor Lawrence hurt multiple times in the month of December. He was dealing with multiple injuries. The offensive line couldn't generate any kind of run game at the middle where all your run plays were either outside zone run plays or the plays that drove everybody nuts, the wide receiver screen passes, because they had to do that because the Jaguars had no run game. It's pathetic that I'm watching the playoffs and it's 3rd and 3 and teams can just run up the middle and get first down when everybody knows they're running the ball. For us, a run down the middle is just a waste of a play. And putting your offense in a situation where it's 2nd and 12 and you have to just keep throwing the ball everywhere, it doesn't help. It doesn't help. And the interior defensive line got absolutely gashed this year too. Roy Robertson Harris didn't have a good year. Devon Hamilton didn't play well. It was just bad, man. It was just really, really bad. But I will say on the flip side, I do think that if you're going to have any optimism about this team, I do think that if he can get better in those just invest some stuff in the interior, I think everything else will get better. Like, I think the Jaguars have good personnel in the secondary. I think they have good personnel at linebacker. It's just they got to do something in that interior of the defensive line. And for God's sake, can you bring in another pass rusher? Another outside linebacker that's not Caleb Chase on. Caleb Chase on, we have no reason to bring him back. He's going to be a free agent. I swear, I do not want to see us bring him back, and I don't think we will. But you never know with this team. You can't predict anything. So, and then with the offense, like the Jaguars have good, I think, skill players. Like I love Travis Etienne. I love Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley. If Calvin Ridley comes back, I like the units. You know what I mean? But I think that you if you can just build the offensive line, defensive line better, I think everybody outside of that will play better. So if there's any point of optimism, just take away that. I do firmly believe that. Now, the thing that really is concerning is that you guys know Trent Baalke was involved in the defensive coordinator, like in the defensive coordinator interviews. It's like, dude, Trent Baalke is not the GM of this team anymore, guys. Trent Baalke is the executive, is the EVP. He's the executive vice president of football operations. Because GMs don't get themselves involved in those interviews. Right now, Trent Baalke is the highest ranking football guy in the building. Why does Trent Baalke have so much control of this team? Why is he so freaking involved in this team? What in his resume should say that, okay, this guy knows how to build a team and do all this different stuff? It's just asinine. And just the way that Trent Baalke can make every head coach he ever works with just completely despise their job. It's crazy. It's crazy. And when it comes to the root of this team's problems, Mike Caldwell and the defense were the scapegoat. While GM Trent Baalke is out here trying to control everything. He has no resume to be able to do this. No resume to be able to do this. I don't know why Shad Khan loves him so much. I don't know what I just don't know. And I don't think anybody really knows. It's crazy. It's ludicrous. It's luda. So, yeah. And the next thing is the Jaguars offense. Like, we thought the Jaguars offense was going to be a high-flying unit. And look, the personnel held the Jaguars back big time. The offense that Trent Baalke built, mainly, like I said, on the interior offensive line, was not good. But also outside of that, a lot goes on to coaches. Look, all the miscommunications this team had when it comes to who the offensive line blocks. Trevor Lawrence will throw a ball, it sail over a player's head, and you see Trevor Lawrence out there yelling at the wide receiver. Like, in these kind of situations, I put blame on the wide receiver over the quarterback because the quarterback knows the plays, he knows where people are supposed to be. And usually it's the same culprits, It was usually Calvin Ridley a bunch of times. And, we saw some Zay Jones being on different pages. Parker Washington was on a different page a lot. How can these communication errors keep persisting in the month of December? That's awful coaching, man. And the play calling was pretty questionable too. But like I said, I'm not as strict on the play calling because, you even look at we had no run game. We couldn't do much. I don't know. I'm not as tough on that. But like in totality of this offense, the only players I really came away from the season happy with on the Jaguars offense was Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, and Anton Harrison. Those are the only three guys that I was really happy with. And look, Trevor struggled this year. And look, I'm personally somebody that, like, I really don't blame him for a lot of what went on. Look, he had the team at 8-3 at one point, even though the offense was struggling. And then we saw a different Trevor Lawrence after he got hurt with all the different injuries. And I know I have my takes on Trevor Lawrence. You guys have all your takes on Trevor Lawrence. There's people in my comment section on every video saying, get rid of Trevor, he's a bust, do this and that. Look, I don't really want to sit here and defend Trevor Lawrence, but I also don't want to sit here and make excuses for Trevor Lawrence. Look, you guys have your thoughts and I have my thoughts. I still think that he's a great quarterback. I still think he's that dude. I just think that there was a lot of circumstances this year that kind of led him and this offense to struggle. So that's my take. You guys can have your take. We're all entitled to our own opinions, but nevertheless, if you do not like Trevor Lawrence, then you're probably going to be unhappy because we all know that the Jaguars are going to be rolling forward with this dude. That just is what it is. So, yeah. Just the offense and overall, it looks like nothing's changing. I mean, 2.5 weeks in, we're not firing anybody. We're not firing our offensive coordinator or nothing. So we're gonna run it back. So Doug Peterson, Press Taylor, and a whole entire crew need to do a self audit of this unit, figure out what went bad, figure out how to fix it, and then we can go back to scoring points and having fun and winning fun games. And you guys know what it was. We were 8-3 at one point. We were having a good time. We were in the playoffs last year. We won a playoff game about a year ago. It's fun. But yeah. And outside of that, my number three concern was the defense. So we took care of that. But big problems persist at the GM and the offense. And things have been silent AF. Doug Peterson spoke less than 24 hours after the Titans game. And outside of that, we've heard nothing. Now, I will say Trent Baalke has an 11:30 a.m. Eastern time presser tomorrow, being Thursday. I'm sure they'll be streaming on the Jaguars platform. It's probably going to be a whole lot of nothing. I'm praying that he announces he's retiring or something, but he's just going to go out there and not hold himself. Like, why can't, this is what I don't understand. Like, I remember I was begging this for Shad Khan to do it, but how come these guys like with Shad Khan or Urban Meyer, why can't he just come up to the meeting and be like, you know what, guys, I messed up. Season ticket holders, I apologize for wasting your money with this awful product. I thought that thinking outside the box, I thought bringing in Urban Meyer was going to be good. It wasn't. But instead, they're just out there. They avoid the subject. Like, why can't Trent Baalke just come out here and say, like, yeah, the roster, I did not build a good roster this year. The interior of the offensive line should have been better. This interior of the defensive line should have been better. I should have went out there and found another pass rusher. It was my fault. But no, he's going to come out there and be like, we had good I felt good in the construction of this team, and I still do. We're going to evaluate things. We're going to go into free agency. We're going to look into the draft, and we're going to get better. Like, that's he's going to say that. That's why I hate press conferences, because you don't really get anything out of this. You don't get anything. It drives me bananas. Okay? Whatever. I hope you guys are having a good week. Shout out to Underdog for sponsoring this video. Promo code UCFJAG, guys. It's going to double your first deposit up to $100. I love you guys. Catch you guys later.